Welcome to Renegade Conversations. My guest today is an author, a serial entrepreneur, a mentor, a motivational speaker, and more. I can't wait for you to meet her. My name is Meryl Cook. I'm an artist, a renegade, and host and creator of Renegade Conversations. My mission is to provide thought-provoking, fearless, and fun discussions with remarkable women who are shaking things up in their respective fields. My hope is to make you question the norms and ignite your own renegade spirit. This episode of Renegade Conversations is sponsored by the Cultured Coconut, a traditionally fermented organic coconut milk kefir that's free from dairy, sugar, and gluten. It is the most powerful and affordable natural probiotic. And it's proudly made by a woman-owned business based in Nova Scotia, Canada. It's widely available across Canada and in the US, and it can also be ordered from the Cultured Coconut directly. I'm so pleased to introduce my next guest, Tia Upshaw, and I'm going to read to you from Tia's bio. Tia Upshaw is a dynamic force, blending roles as a devoted mother, an accomplished author, and a serial entrepreneur. Balancing the demands of raising 3 children, Tia says she draws inspiration from their experiences to fuel her drive for positive change. As an author, Tia empowers readers with her insightful and thought-provoking works. She has written 3 books at this point. The first is The Way to Success, the process of starting or growing a business as a Black woman entrepreneur. Her second book is Urban Dreams Unleashed, and her most recent is a memoir, is My Journey, My Success, a story about resilience and empowerment. Tia's entrepreneurial spirit is characterized by relentless drive and innovation. She has birthed successful ventures and contributed significantly to community growth. Recognized for leadership, Tia has been nominated for prestigious awards like Business Leader of the Year and RBC Woman of Influence. As the professional in residence at the St. Mary's University L. Arthur Entrepreneurship Center, she mentors aspiring entrepreneurs, shaping the future of business leaders. Tia's commitment extends to her groundbreaking organization, Black Women in Excellence, Nova Scotia and BC, fostering a supportive community for Black women entrepreneurs. Her influence, which encompasses motivational speaking, mentoring, and content creation, inspires and transforms lives, making her an impactful figure in the entrepreneurial landscape. So welcome, Tia. I can hardly wait to have this conversation with you. You and I have never officially met.
No, not yet.
Not yet. Well, today is the first time. But I've been seeing your name popping up all over LinkedIn. And then I saw you interviewing Garnet Reed, one of my favorite people at the Alderney Farmers Market. You were interviewing her on your Tuesdays with Tia program on CTV. So like you've got a lot going on. It's wonderful.
I wouldn't say a lot, just
Uh-huh.
enough.
Enough. Okay. Very cool. Very cool.
Sprinkle.
Excellent. So thanks for agreeing to hop on Zoom with me to have this conversation. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm actually honored that you asked me to do so. As soon as I seen the invite and I went and checked out, your previous ones, I was like, oh, absolutely, I'm going to say yes to this. So thank you. Thank
Oh,
you.
oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. So, Tia, here's a random question. What are you drinking today? What's your usual beverage?
Oh, a usual beverage during the daytime would be, the Starbucks iced coffee with double shot of espresso. That's during the day. So that is what I have today in my
Nice.
pink Starbucks tumbler.
Oh,
Most people
awesome.
will be able to see in my background is
Yeah.
pink. My
Yes.
lips are pink. My nails are pink. So my brand is pink.
Excellent. Excellent. I can see that. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I'll be sure to put the link to your Starbucks beverage in the show notes. So Tia, what does being a renegade mean to you?
Being a renegade means to me is, causing a little bit of disruption, causing that uncomfortable atmosphere where we have to have that uncomfortable conversation.
Uh-huh.
And, I would say previous to 20, 30 years ago, renegade was not a positive term that you would use. To, define a woman.
Yeah.
So for me, it absolutely fits in my category. Like I would love to have like Tia, boss, renegade, something in my bio because it's a term that it is who I am.
Uh-huh.
Because I find that when you're a renegade, you're able to create change even through those uncomfortable conversations,
Right.
Meryl, and disrupting the norm.
Uh-huh.
That is where change happens. So
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
everything. It's Tia.
It's absolutely, it's great. Well, I came up with the idea for Renegade when I had a creating space community of women who were journaling and making art together. And every time I mentioned the word renegade, everybody just broke into smiles. Like it's a really a term that I don't know lifts us up a little bit, and it's
It does,
yeah,
especially in this time and age.
uh-huh,
Like that term is like strength, empowering. It's almost like there was a cartoon I watched when I was younger, Shira.
uh-huh,
Like it was He-Man and Shira,
yes,
and Shira was a renegade. So
yeah,
for me, it's almost like superpower. Give me a
yep.
superpower with that term.
Excellent. Good, good. Thank you so much. And have you always been a renegade?
Absolutely not. I would say I've always been the person that did the opposite. So, I mean, growing up as a teenager, a young woman, you didn't really use that term,
Uh-huh.
renegade. So I would say absolutely not because I didn't understand it then.
Uh-huh.
Now, I would say I became and took on that true meaning as a renegade probably only in the last 3 to 4 years, Meryl.
Awesome.
Previous to that, um, I was someone who, like I said, went against the grain. My grandmother used to always say that you like to be defiant. She is my
Uh-huh.
defiant baby. And I'm like, oh. But it worked out my favor because it just added strength to,
Yeah.
me and what I'm doing and advocating for. So yes, I am a renegade now, but not always, never
Oh,
was.
nice. Nice. So it's never too late, in other words, to
And
become a
I'm hoping
renegade.
that other women, see, what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and
Uh-huh.
start using that term too to identify themselves because it's never too late. It's never too late.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. I love to hear that. Can you tell me about what impact has being a renegade had on your life and your career? For example, what kinds of opportunities or maybe challenges has it presented?
I would firstly go with the opportunities. Got to go with the good
Okay.
stuff first. I
Absolutely.
would say it gives me the courage to really embody that term and refer to yourself as one. It has given me the, confidence to be able to change, the dynamic of what an entrepreneur looks like as a woman,
Hmm.
as a Black woman coming from the
Yeah.
African Nova Scotian community.
Uh-huh.
And it has given me the courage to advocate for others. So I've been in business as an entrepreneur, Meryl, for 11 years now,
Yeah.
and no one noticed me. No one noticed me. I was running three businesses at one time. No one noticed me until 2020 when I
Uh-huh.
decided to take my inner renegade and spirit and start an organization, Black Women in Excellence, to offer the education, support, and encouragement, and
Hmm.
be an inspiration for other women that may look like me or come from the environments I come from to
Uh-huh.
say, well, she can do it. I have to have the courage and the confidence to be successful too, and I'm going to
Yeah.
try to do it.
Yeah.
Um, that is the positive of it. And I wouldn't say there is any negative because for me, well, honestly, there is negatives in life. But
Uh-huh.
for me, I had so many negatives in my life, and
Hmm.
that wasn't contributed from being a renegade or not a renegade, or
Yeah.
being empowered or being a fighter or a superwoman. It was just my circumstances I grew up in the community I grew up in, and
Uh-huh.
what I knew how to do and what to do. So I
Yeah.
didn't really know any better. So those negatives, we're gonna just channel them and put them in a little bucket and leave them somewhere else.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I don't think, being a renegade contributed to that at all. Well, maybe it could have, but for me, I will stick with the positive energy it's given me and the
Mm-hmm.
strength it's given me to just be Tia. And, I'm out here doing things and moving and shaking. And as people say, breaking glass ceilings. And
Uh-huh.
I'll be honest with you, Meryl, if I look in the mirror now, I'm like, who are you now? I would have
Mm-hmm.
never pictured, even 5 years ago, I would
Uh-huh.
be doing what I'm doing today.
That's wonderful. And can you tell me a bit more about the impact that BWIE has had on other women? Like, just tell me a little bit, because I love the idea of this organization. So yeah, tell me a bit more.
Sometimes when I talk about it, I get a little bit emotional, so I'm gonna try not to do that. Why
Oh,
don't
go
I
for
don't
it.
have usually I have fake eyelashes on. That's why I don't get emotional. Today, I
Do
don't
they
have
fall
any
off
on, so
when
I'm
you
good.
cry?
They do.
Oh no,
Oh, every
oh
time. But
no.
whenever someone asks me this question, they say, "How do you measure your success, Tia?"
Uh-huh.
And I go back to the Black women I work with. Um, the impact I never thought would even be
Mhm.
near where it's at.
Uh,
When I first started this organization, Meryl, it was solely to have a group of Black women, who are Caribbean from the African diaspora or from, the African Nova Scotian communities,
mhm.
collectively get together and complain about how life is not fair, how we
Yeah.
don't have opportunities, how we're not able to access capital. That
Mhm.
is what it was for.
Yes.
And once I started that conversation in certain communities, we did form a group, but that group turned into a registered non-for-profit within 2 months after having that group.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was in 2020. Now we're in 2024.
Mhm.
And I have, through my organization as a CEO, I have personally one-on-one group um, atmospheres trained over 100 Black women in
Mhm.
Canada to
Yeah.
help them start businesses, to help them scale their businesses,
Mhm.
to make the connections if they want to get into importing and exporting.
Uh-huh.
We have, oh my goodness, we have worked with over 125 women now in our mentorship initiative, where we have women across Canada who are dedicating their time to be mentors
Mm.
to new business owners.
Yeah.
And, when I ask someone to be a mentor, I'm always like honored and surprised when they say, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm like,
Wonderful.
you would do this. I've always been a person who likes volunteering.
Uh-huh.
Not everybody sees the benefit in that. So
Uh-huh.
when I ask someone to be a mentor, it's usually scary because I do they want to give up their free time?
Uh-huh.
Women in leadership roles or women in business, we're busy, Meryl. We're
We are
running our
busy.
families, we're
Yeah.
running our businesses.
Yeah.
So for me to ask that, I get nervous, but
Uh-huh.
we have done amazing things. Most recently, we were able to acquire over 45 brand new laptops from Department of Education. So
Mhm.
we have a lending laptop program now.
Nice.
I can't even say enough about the organization.
Yeah.
And to backtrack a little bit, what I was saying earlier about getting emotional,
Uh-huh.
this organization has not only helped these women to succeed, it's helped me to find myself
Mm-hmm.
as a
Mm-hmm.
lost Black woman, as a broken Black woman, to
Yeah.
see this is my time, this is what I was put on earth to do.
Uh-huh.
And every single day I look forward to meeting a new woman, a new Black woman, a new woman of color,
Mm-hmm.
and saying, hey, let's have a conversation about business.
Yeah.
When a woman starts a business that I know, that is where I know I'm succeeding. Like
Mm-hmm.
every time they start a business, every time they register one, every
Yeah.
time they start getting into importing and exporting, or they open a brick and mortar, that is
Mm-hmm.
how I measure my success, because I
Yeah.
know it's a part of that from the beginning.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
and we know that women in business, we raise our whole family up, right, when we start a business. So got
absolutely. And
huge
your whole
ripple
community.
effects. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Good for you. And you're doing some really
Thanks.
interesting work at St. Mary's University as well. Can you tell me a little bit about, you're so lucky.
Yeah,
That's just awesome. I know
I
you just
know.
luck into it. You worked hard to get there, but
But
tell
you
me
know
about,
what? I didn't know how hard I was working to get in those spaces.
uh-huh.
So what happened was, this is how it was, so simple. On side, another organization asked me to be a
Mhm.
judge at a pitch competition 2 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And I said, absolutely. I
Yeah.
love entrepreneurship.
Yep. Yep.
And once I did that, the pitch competition was held down at the Dalmore Buddy Day Learning Institute.
Mm, nice.
And there was a gentleman there. We connected really quick. He was a judge
Uh-huh.
too, Jason
Yeah.
Turner.
Uh-huh.
Well, I mean, we connected. We were just like talking the whole time, like we knew each other for decades.
Nice.
From there, um, fast forward to the summer after their pitch competition, BWIE does pitch competitions
Hmm.
curated for Black women every year,
Nice.
and we give out $10,000 grand prize. We have big sponsorship from Patterson Outdoor Advertising. It's amazing.
Nice.
So I said, let me reach out to Jason and the Entrepreneurship Center and see if they want to be a partner and a sponsor. They
Yep.
jumped on right away.
That's awesome.
Once I got to be around them and be at the center and just kind of insert myself in
Yeah.
spaces I didn't think I was able to be in or I didn't belong,
Uh-huh.
everything changed. Everything
Right.
changed. So for me, number one, I'm big on entrepreneurship. And number two, the St. Mary's Entrepreneurship Center with Michael and Jason down there. They're doing amazing things.
They are. Hmm.
They are really pushing the envelope on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I
Hmm.
want to be a part of it.
Oh,
And if you ask anybody at that center, do they know me? They know me. I'm down there. Well, we have a co-working space down there for my
nice.
staff every Wednesday.
Uh-huh.
They're there from 10 till 4.
Great.
I'm down there whenever a new business is launching or celebrating a year in business.
Yeah.
I was just down there on Tuesday night for employee next.
Hmm.
They had a launch and I went. I'm going to the
Yeah.
gala next week down there.
Yeah.
That is like if I could take a younger Tia, Meryl,
Uh-huh.
and start over again, I would start my journey off with the Entrepreneurship Center and I would, enlist everything they have to offer me
Right.
as a young
Right.
entrepreneur. I would do it over
Yeah.
again. I would do it that way.
And just keep showing up, right? And just keep meeting people and talking about what you do. And yeah, it's amazing. And but it must have
Amazing.
taken a fair bit of confidence to get started with that, right? Like you'd have to be a bit of a
Yeah,
renegade in order to show up as, when there were probably few Black women in that
very.
space, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now there's
Awesome.
more.
Yeah.
And I'm actually doing a 1 day summit for Black women and Black women leaders in next month, April. And we
Nice.
partnered with the center because I want to, engage more of the university students from the
Uh-huh.
Caribbean islands and whatnot.
Yes. Yeah.
But you have to have a courage and you have to be a renegade to show up because it's hard. When you're
Yeah.
the only Black woman in the space,
Yeah. I can
I've been
imagine.
doing this for 3 years solid.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, every event I go to, Meryl, I am usually the only Black woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm Tia, so I'm just like, hey guys,
Well,
I'm showing up.
that's right. I'm showing up, and hopefully there will be more showing up over the years. Yeah, that's wonderful, Tia. It's so encouraging to hear that. I did my master's degree at St. Mary's, and that was back in the 80s, a long time ago.
Uh,
And they at that point they were even in the forefront of bringing in students of diversity. Like they really had, um, they've always had that focus, which is really great. Um, cool. Well, that's exciting. So this
okay,
is a
so
kind of a funny question. In grade two, what kind of a kid were you?
I was a good kid actually. In
Yeah.
grade two, I was a
Yeah.
great kid. I was eager. I was young. I was, obedient. I guess you use
Hmm.
that term back then, in
Hmm.
the 80s. Um, I loved being around other kids and I loved being in school. Now,
Hmm.
if you ask me how was I come grade, 4 or 5, a
Uh-huh.
whole different, person. I started rebelling. I started finding who I was
Yes.
and going against the grain,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay.
literally.
Cool.
But grade
Cool.
two, yeah, I remember from grade 4 plus to grade primary to grade 1 to grade 2. And I remember all my teachers.
Uh-huh.
I even remember my grade 7 teacher. She's actually on my Facebook. So yeah, I
Yeah.
miss those days.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wonderful. So this is a question that I often ask when I'm teaching workshops, and it's a way to get people to start thinking outside the box, and it always comes up with something interesting. And that question is there a line or a shape that would define you? And if so, what would that look like?
It wouldn't even be a line or a shape. It's a
Hmm.
squiggle, a squiggly marker,
Uh-huh.
because everything about me is always changing. Everything about me is evolving, and
Uh-huh.
nothing that I've ever had to do in life has been a straight way. It
Uh-huh.
has been I've been on every turn, bend, bump, hill, speed
Yeah.
bump, along the way. So it would be a squibbly line and a
Yeah.
messy squibbly line.
Awesome. That's great. Cool. Thank you
I
very
love
much.
that question. Thank you. Like literally, it would as soon as you said it, I was like, a squibbly line. It's
Yeah.
always been all over the place.
Well, what I find really interesting about that question is I almost always get a completely different answer from everybody else. So everybody has their own way of answering that question, and it's a different way of thinking about your life
Thinking about it.
than other ways. Yeah. So thanks so much.
Somebody else would probably say, Tia, you're oxygon. Like, some people would
Yeah.
like, say that was, circle because I come back completely 180 from who I used to be.
Uh-huh.
So different people will probably say different things about me. But for
Yes.
me, as soon as you said it, it was like, oh gosh,
Yeah.
squibble line, like curve, squibble, messy line.
Very cool. What I find when I answer that question, it changes from year to year. So when I first answered that question, it was when I was writing my second book. It was about that I was a curvy line because I never had been a straight line kind of girl, and I thought about curves. And and then the next time it was more like a starfish kind of opening to the world. So
What?
it does kind of change, and it's interesting. So go back to
Ask
it
me
at
that
another time.
question. Yeah, make sure you ask me that question in the year again, Meryl. And I'm
Yeah,
going to see
yeah.
what's the first thing that's going to come to my head.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. And we haven't talked about your books at all. When did you start writing your books? You've got a number of books that you wrote, like
My
The Way to
goodness.
Success and Black Woman Entrepreneur, or The Urban Dreams Unleashed. And yeah,
Yeah.
so tell me about that. When did you get started writing?
Okay, to start writing, I started about 2 years ago, 18 months to 2 years ago. It was my
Uh-huh.
memoir.
Yes.
So the memoir just came out January 2024, January 2nd. But
Yeah.
I was working on that for a long time. And
Uh-huh.
compared to my other books, that book was the most tra- trauma related,
Right.
triggering, very hard to write,
Mm,
very, very difficult to write a memoir. And I
yeah.
wish somebody would have told me that. So I'm going to
Yes.
tell anybody listening to this podcast, if you're going to write a memoir, ensure that your therapist is aware, ensure that you set up some
Yeah.
therapy around it, or have a
Yeah.
good team or tribe around you,
Yeah.
because in order to get to the guts what's going to sell your memoir, you really have to open up.
Yeah.
And that, like I said, took me 2 years.
Uh-huh.
Now, with regards to Urban Dreams, that's just based on a young Caribbean girl, and it means a lot to me, not because I'm Caribbean, but I
Mhm.
use her as a character because my fiance is Jamaican, and I
Uh-huh.
know his mind frame when it comes around education and
Uh-huh.
all that stuff. But it's similar to the Black community here in Nova Scotia.
Yeah. Yeah.
To start a business, to be an entrepreneur, how dare you? You do not do that. You're
Right.
wasting your time. It is irresponsible of you. You go
Uh-huh.
to school, you go to high school, graduate, go to university, get a degree, you find a good paying job in government, or you become a doctor or a lawyer.
Yeah.
You have that traditional realm around you.
Yeah.
Then you get married, then you have kids, and then you retire, and you have your RSPs and whatnot.
Yeah.
To do it the opposite way it's not looked upon really nicely. It's
Uh-huh.
unconventional.
Yeah.
So I had to write about it. It's a young girl who did that. She
Uh-huh.
she she had a full scholarship to be a doctor, and she stopped going to school. Her
Hmm.
parents said no.
Uh-huh.
And she started a fashion line, and she was hiding fabrics under her bed. And you know it's amazing. She ended up having her tribe, her team around her, her
Yeah,
friends.
yeah.
And I talk about how she lost friends because her business was doing good and they were a little bit jealous. So that whole story is around, an 18-year-old young woman
Uh-huh.
whose parents, don't know what she's doing because she knows she can't tell them. She's
Yeah.
losing friends because they can't understand why she's so embedded in her business.
Uh-huh.
Her relationship's going up and down because he wants her to choose him, not the business. It is
Uh-huh.
based on, you know, not me being Caribbean, but I know how these stories go with regards
Yes.
to entrepreneurship and
Yeah.
relationships.
Yeah. There you
And I
go.
want other young girls to read that and be like, you know what?
Yeah.
This is where I'm at. And I need to talk to my parents and say, mom and dad, or just mom or just
Mm.
dad, or auntie
Yeah.
or grandmom.
Yeah.
I do not want to go to university. I am passionate about starting a business and I would like your support.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what that
Awesome.
intention is.
Oh, nice.
And
Yeah.
it is, I loved it. I loved
Yeah.
writing that one.
Good.
And the other one, how to be successful starting a business as a Black woman, is in for me. I get asked all the time, how did you start this? How
Uh-huh.
did you start your first business? You never had
Yeah.
access to capital. You had bad credit. Like, how
Yep.
did you have the
How did you do it?
courage?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Good.
I just took what I've done and created a how-to type of book. Now, I
Nice.
will say this, Meryl. I wouldn't have got a kick in the behind to do these without a gentleman named George Hanna.
Uh-huh.
George Hanna works at iSands. He has his own businesses,
Oh, yeah.
and he also is a facilitator for workplace education,
Uh-huh.
which I am also.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah. So meeting
Yeah.
George and going through one of his programs on digital marketing,
Mm-hmm.
we got into a conversation about this. We met afterwards, and he said, Tia, stop saying you're going to do it. Let's get it done.
Just do it.
And he
Yeah.
was instrumental in working with me night and day. Like, this man, I'll always have much respect and love for him. He
Uh-huh.
did not know me, Meryl. I did not
Yeah.
know him.
Oh,
And
awesome.
he took time away from his family, his wife, and just to sit with this young Black girl
Yeah.
who he doesn't know
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
ensure what?
Wonderful. Oh, good for
Yes.
you. I got started writing my first book by, I had a conversation with a friend. I sent her a note. I saw that she had just started a publishing company. And I said, oh, congratulations, Anne. How are you doing? She said, oh, good. And I said, I've just recovered from breast cancer. And I'm thinking I might like to write a book someday. And she said, oh, and she got on the phone and she called me and she said, so when would you
Let's
like
do
your
it.
book to come out? Let's do it. And so we sort of thought, okay, maybe it'll come out by Christmas. So I would need the manuscript by here. Here's an outline. How about just doing it? And so I wrote it in 2 months. And it was just amazing, and that's what you need sometimes is somebody to just say, okay, let's make it happen. So yeah, sounds like that happened for you. That's wonderful.
You need
So
that person. And
yeah,
if I didn't meet him, I promise you, Meryl, I wouldn't have done it. I would have kept
no.
finding excuses. I'm busy.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
kids. Like,
I
I would have
know.
just found every excuse.
I know, I hear you. So, Tia, what advice do you have for women who want to access more of their own inner wild self or their renegade self? Like if you were to tell to somebody, here's how you get started, or here's some ways that you can be more of a renegade. What would you say?
The only thing I would say is be your authentic self.
Hmm.
I do presentations across Canada about authentic branding,
Hmm.
being authentic, because everything about me is who you'll see now, who you'll see 5 years from now, who you'll see if I'm sitting with Tim Houston or Trudeau. I
Hmm.
am who I am.
Yeah.
And, being the authentic person I am has come across, and people are able to see the
Hmm.
intention, what I'm trying to do, and they can trust. When you build that trust,
Yeah.
that's when you build, a community. They can see
Yes.
this is not fake. And Tia is always Tia. Like,
Yeah.
she shows up with her eyelashes, her pink long nails. And it doesn't take away from her accolades. It doesn't take away from what she brings to the table.
Yeah.
And even if I don't have anything to bring to the table, because most people know, like, I don't even have a degree in business. I
Uh-huh.
have grade 12. Now I'm
Uh-huh.
doing my MBA now through the University
Oh,
of Fredericton,
awesome.
but I don't have no education behind business.
Hmm.
I was really street smart. So I knew how to take a little bit of money, save a little bit, put a little bit back into something and
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I talk about it so that people don't forget that I'm just a human, a young girl coming out of low income. I do
Uh-huh.
not have, entrepreneurship skills in my family or conversations about it.
Right.
I wasn't given any businesses,
Yes.
nothing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
me being
Wonderful.
authentic has gotten me in rooms that no degree will get anybody.
Yes. Yes. That is wonderful.
Be
So live,
authentic.
Be authentic is your main piece of advice. That's awesome.
It
That's,
is. Even if you're quirky,
yeah,
who cares? If you're extra, people will say, oh, you're too loud, you're too extra. That's not your problem. That's their problem. If
yeah,
somebody wants you to dim your light to make them comfortable,
yeah.
move away from those people, Meryl.
Yeah. So I think that's something you've talked about today a little bit more as well is kind of finding your tribe, right? Finding people
Uh,
who support you and who will be there. I was talking with someone earlier today and she said, you know, it's that be find the kind of people around you who will help you adjust your crown when it's a little bit crooked, but they don't necessarily tell other people that your crown was crooked, right? You know, they just help.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's interesting because our mentorship initiative is called Fix Her Crown.
Oh, nice. That's wonderful. Oh, it sounds like
Because
such a
I'm a
wonderful
firm believer.
organization. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Awesome. I really think that's so important. It's the most important thing to be
your
there for one
tribe.
another and yeah, and be authentic. Yeah. Good for you. Thank you so much. So, one last question I have is, do you have a question for me?
Yeah, I did because I wanted to ask you about, at what point in your life you talked about you went through cancer and whatnot. What point in your life, Meryl, did you realize that you were a renegade?
Well, I think I've always been a renegade in that I always questioned the norms and I always asked a lot of whys and I really could never follow rules just because they were rules. They had to make sense to me. So it got me into a lot of trouble growing up. But I think that having cancer, so that's almost 9 years now. I'm 8.5 years since I was diagnosed. And that was my big wake up call. The year before, I had crashed my son's motorcycle, and that was my first
Lord.
wake up call. I was on the Waverly Road and I hit an oncoming vehicle. I was just,
Oh my
oh,
gosh.
anyway, yeah, it was not awesome. But anyway, so then the next year I got breast cancer, and I thought, well, this is it. Like, I really need to do exactly what I want to do in my life. And I don't know what I want to do, but I'm going to do it. So
Anyways,
I had been a homeopath for 20 years. I closed my practice and I loved being a homeopath, but I decided that I wouldn't be responsible for anybody else. And I started journaling and doing my rug hooking every day. I had done it for about 8 years before that, but always as a when everything else got done, I could do my
huh?
hooking. But now this was every day I sat down and hooked and wrote. And so within 8 months, I had hooked 5 rugs that were about my healing. And I had also written my first book, which was a story of healing and creativity. And then basically things kind of evolved from there. But so I'd say that was a big turning point for me was realizing that I was worth spending time on myself, right? And I was worth and I was enough no matter what I had done because I always as a homeopath and other previous careers, I felt like maybe I wasn't quite enough. You know, that if I only got one more degree, if I only did one more thing, I'd be enough. And then I realized that no, I really am enough. And it doesn't matter what I do from now on, I'm already enough. And that's something that when I do workshops, I try to speak about and get people to think about because I think so many of us, particularly women, have this feeling like we're not enough, right? We're not enough to be in the room, or we're not enough to be invited to speak on this panel or whatever. And in fact, we are. And I think it's kind of owning that we are enough, right? Yeah, yeah.
Love that answer. Oh my goodness, thank you so much.
You're
Um,
welcome.
I kind of knew your answer, but I didn't know your answer. And
Uh-huh.
I thought, it would be, based around your circumstance from your cancer situation. And
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you dived a little bit deeper in there and talked about that
Thanks.
because us as women, Meryl, it is so true. I do it sometimes. Oh, I'm not enough or I'm not good enough. But we just have to keep showing up as our
Yeah.
authentic selves
Yeah.
because we are good enough. We are good enough.
We are enough. Exactly. Yeah. I have a couple of rugs devoted just to that.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
keep doing that. Those bugs keep
Yeah.
hooking away.
Well, and you keep going too. I'm so excited to hear more about what's going on with you. I'll be following you on LinkedIn and hopefully
Thank you.
we'll
I
run into one
appreciate it.
another. Yeah, this has been really, really wonderful to meet you, and thank you very much. Is there anything else you want to add before we close?
No, I would just say, let's continue to be renegades. Let's continue to build that sisterhood of renegade sisters.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thanks. Thanks, Tia. You have a really great day.
Thank you so much, Meryl. Thank you guys. Have a nice day.
I hope hearing this renegade conversation has left you feeling inspired and ready to channel your own renegade spirit. If you need some help getting started, please reach out to me. This episode was sponsored by the Cultured Coconut, a traditionally fermented organic coconut milk kefir that's free from dairy, sugar, and gluten. It is the most powerful and affordable natural probiotic, and it's proudly made by a women-owned business based in Nova Scotia, Canada. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more Renegade Conversations. Also available wherever you get your podcasts as an audio version. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.